I have a name that belonged to a great African historian. His name was Mahmoud El-Kati. He belonged to a family of scholars. The L stand for the son of, nephew of, that's what that was. The El-Katis, and also went to an African university. I read about him here and there, and then I finally took a class at the University of Ghana in which they explained who Mahmoud El-Kati was. He was one of the people who preserved the history of West Africa. It's not religious. I'm not a Muslim. It has nothing to do with nationality. It has to do with freedom. I made that choice. Well, who gave you the authority? Took authority. Who gave Thomas Jefferson authority to write the Declaration of Independence? Nobody. He took it. He didn't ask King George. That's a freedom move. You understand? I have lived in Minnesota most of my life. And when I came here, I married a lady from this region. That's how I ended up out in Minnesota. And I was leaving every year the first 3 years I was here. But I fell in love with some people. Josie Johnson and the late Katie McGuad and all these people, Larry Borum. And I met some wonderful people here. See, this is what makes people stay. It's not, weather has nothing to do with it. It's the warmth of human kinship. I came here from Cleveland, Ohio, where I went to school in Southern Ohio. I went to a small college in Ohio called Wilberforce University. It's a black college. I have 1 degree, 1 honorary doctorate, and a lot of other stuff. So that's part of my education, as I put it. But most of my education is not school-bound. My grandmother was very instrumental in my educational experience because a woman who was proud of the fact that she could read, and she read black newspapers, African-American newspapers. I've been reading black newspapers. That's black newspapers. It's a black institution, been around since 1827, founded in New York. There were black newspapers even when black people were slaves. A black newspaper does not have the same mission as white newspapers. It's essentially about freedom. That's what the first one was called, Freedom's Journal. And they've been around off and on, even before slavery. Before slavery ended, there were about 40 black newspapers. What I'm doing now, I've been doing since some form of what I'm doing since I was a teenager, an adolescent, and that's dealing with the question of history, black, and culture, and wherever that carries me. That the movement dictated where I landed. And so as in Cleveland, we had something called the African American Forum. Every Sunday in Cleveland, a young man and I founded that. I was a part of something called the American Negro Emancipation Proclamation Centennial Committee on the 100th anniversary of Black Freedom. That's 1963, a very historic year. We were part of a research team to gather all the information that we could on African-American inventors in Ohio. Granville T. Woods, 35 patent rights dealing with electricity. I met the man who Garrett A. Morgan, who invented the stoplight. You make knowledge from information, and that's all that is. The curriculum of the American school system is based on the doctrine of white supremacy. That's why a black 8-year-old can't see himself in history like a white child. He can see George Washington and imagine from them, but he can't see Crispus Attucks. He can't see the Coffee Brothers. He can't see Prince Whipple. He can't see Taxis and who are all these? These are black men in George Washington's army, and it's recorded. It's there. We know these people's families are still here, but where are they in the curriculum? There were 5,000 black troops in George Washington's army. Spanish people were here first, before Jamestown. Slaves were with them. That's who built St. Augustine. You know, Spanish and black people. What? And if you and I were living in, during George Washington's time, the largest city in America would have been Charleston. That's before Philadelphia, before New York, so forth. Who built that? Black people. The records are all there, but I don't even compare black people to immigrants because they're not. We're not immigrants. We didn't willingly, openly come to America for a better job and so forth. That's nonsense. Black people are distinctly non-immigrant. As my old teacher, John Henry Clark, used to tell us, that the black people, Africans, are the only ones who were invited to this party. We didn't come of our own volition. We were invited. And we don't want to discuss the terms of the invitation. Frederick Douglass taught us that institutions, oppressive institutions, they don't change themselves. If you give them a shot at it, they'll do wrong from choice and right only from necessity. So you have to make it necessary. Keep the pressure. Keep learning new lessons, how to fight, developing new strategies because they change. So the 60s people and the 70s people did a good job. They lived up to their moral assignment. You live up to yours. They lived up to their moral assignment. Martin and Malcolm and Medgar and Fannie Lou and Rosa Parks and Stokely and Rapp and everybody and Ruby Doris Robinson and God knows how many people, they did their job. That's what I think. They couldn't do everything. So you pick up the baton. You pick up the mantle.